Don in London, hello. It's 19th of January 2013. My video's all about recovery from addiction to either substances or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour. Equally addictive around trying to be perfect with the right people, in the right places, doing the right things, and with the right things. So these days life has changed a lot. No longer trying to be perfect, and just simply live one day at a time, where needs are met and hopefully wants are forgotten, although I still keep on wanting certain things. Just do. Part of life, I guess. We always want something somewhere. Anyway, this is about what helps me keep sober, and what helps me keep sober most of all is fellowship, the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't speak for AA, never can, never will. AA is full of unique, authentic people who share their experience, strength and hope where they choose, and I choose to share some here because I was asked and answered. So life in fellowship, what's it all about? I'm going to share the AA preamble. I don't memorise it. In all the years I've been sober I can still forget it, which is a good thing, because if I remember it and recite it, it probably doesn't mean as much to me, but I hear it at the beginning of every meeting, so I share it here. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So it's a win-win. We share together, we understand sober together, and we keep on learning experience, strength and hope from each other. And no one's bigger or smaller than anybody else in fellowship. So whether you're a newcomer or an old-timer or a day-timer, whatever you are, we're all living in the same day, and I guess that's my message today. January for me is all about step one, powerlessness over alcohol, and if I drink again life will get unmanageable. So I try to focus on step one of the 12 steps which help me keep sober one day at a time. So today, compare and despair. That's my general theme, compare and despair. How am I feeling this morning? Why? And what to do? These are my basic questions I ask myself. How am I feeling, why, and what to do? So just that I know my mood, what mood I'm in, and how it's going to affect my thinking and actions today. In this present moment I feel good. Why? Because I'm warm. Well, I am relatively, although it's gotten a bit cold now. I feel warm, have a roof over my head, and it's very cold outside. Groceries have been delivered this morning, on time. So I have enough to eat, and what to do next? Well, my mobility is severely impaired. That's my ability to get about. Severely impaired by pain at the moment. Living longer, I've got other chronic ailments. So this morning I can write, I can feel, I can think, and I can share experience, strength and hope. So not so bad really, no matter what my circumstances are physically. Emotionally, I'm in a good mood. Compare and despair. I'm using notes which I wrote this morning, and that's the way I do it at the moment, so I try and keep on track. Compare and despair. If we make it to fellowship, we will hear the experience, strength and hope of other people who will be sober, nearly sober, and sometimes drunk, because we need the reminders. So whether a person is drunk, sober, or a long time sober, we will have a message, and we share it by just being there, in whatever state we happen to be, because that's the truth of who we are right now. We all live in the same day, the present day, and what is important in fellowship is to live one day at a time. Compare and despair on a personal level can be about what we used to be back in the day, when life seemed sweet and before it got ugly with addiction. And then we compare ourselves to today and the present, and we are quite different. And the longer we are, and we are quite different the longer we are away from a drink. So we can compare and despair between the old life in our perceived successes and excesses in the past, and a new life which is extremely difficult in early days, and only when we are sufficiently aware that life in the present moment without a drink means we can enjoy reality without any need to distort reality, do we actually start to believe that this new life, one day at a time, is possible and may be preferable. So we all go through a learning curve, what it was like in the grand old days of drinking and success and happiness, and we forget the ugliness of where it got us to. And before we get forgetful, we have people around us who can help. So comparing and despairing in another way can be very good, comparing the similarities we have but not the differences. But comparing and despairing and judging other people, if we compare ourselves with other people, the ones that are like us, the ones who seem to be better off, the ones who are worse off, we can envy just about anyone and everyone. And this is the perverse nature of addiction. The rich man or woman can envy the poor man and woman. They perceive it may be easy to find recovery when everything is lost. And the poor man or woman can envy the rich man or woman because it's easier to get recovery in a grand house with a fat bank account. And of course the road of recovery is not selective. It is not easier or harder for any one person to recover than another person. And that's true. Addiction and alcoholism is an equal opportunities killer, and the fatal malady will take anyone down, any time and at any place. If you compare your situation rather than look for the similarities, life will take on new meaning, a very negative meaning. When we look at the similarities, we find we are all the same on the road of recovery. And it's very easy to sit in a meeting and see people in a very well dressed, very well kitted out in a Rolls Royce waiting to pick them up with a chauffeur. And you can also see people who used to be, well, how I used to be, turning up from being homeless and having nothing and eating biscuits because that was the only food I was going to get that day. And when I compared myself to the man in the Rolls Royce, certainly a negative thought or two did crop across my mind. But it's no easier no matter where you come from, and what we find in recovery is we're all on the same road of recovery, and if we look for the similarities rather than the differences, we may find that life starts to take on a very positive meaning. That is, we survive, we live, we cover our needs, no matter how it is. Somehow we cover the needs. We don't have to fear in the moment of now. We develop a bit of courage in the moment of now, and we keep on learning life. So learning life doesn't mean you're going to be financially secure. It means that you won't fear financial insecurity. It just might be a fact of life for quite a while, or forever. It's just the way it is. So real life keeps on happening, no matter where we come from. A fellowship with one primary purpose, to help people with a desire to be sober, and hopefully keep sober one day at a time, and a diverse fellowship in faith and belief. Believers in God, Buddhists, and every religion you can possibly imagine. Believers in nothingness, agnostics and atheists as well. What you believe in or what you don't believe in is part of you, and you need not change your opinion unless you change your opinion. So you don't have to fall in with other people's opinions and beliefs, nor be affiliated to them in any way. We're there to see the similarities about recovery and sobriety, and that's why fellowship works, because it concentrates and has one primary purpose: sobriety and recovery. Not whether we join a political party or a particular religion. We probably have already, or decided against it. Diversity, the greatest wisdom, from the greatest number to the greatest number. The only place I know it's okay to follow your own belief and faith without hindrance appears to be in fellowship, as people start to understand that no one has a greater hold on truth than another. In the end, one way or another, truth, love and wisdom prevail in recovery. And once we are sober, the rest of life keeps happening as it will, and most often not by our will. Letting go of the addiction, which is a physical and emotional bond, and opening up to a healthy emotional and physical future on a daily basis is going to be a shock to the system. And to get into an addictive state, it requires endurance to the limits of human capacity. And maintaining that endurance in inactive addiction will lead to a complete breakdown emotionally and physically, which is why so few people make it to recovery. It is not the fault of the person trying to recover, and it is not the fault of professionals trying to help a person recover, and it is not the fault of a fellowship trying to help a person recover from an impossible situation we cannot stop, which is killing us. So whatever we do on our own, self-will tends to lead to self-obsession and an iron grip of self-control, which is impossible to maintain. Step 1, the admission of powerlessness over addiction and continued using will lead a person into an unmanageable state, and that needs to be accepted one day at a time. Give an addict or alcoholic a timescale of more than one day, recovery is unbearable and often feels impossible, which is why we just say it's just for today. God, that's all it has to be, or by the second, minute or hour. And on our own it's extraordinarily difficult, because it's self-will, self-obsessing about I must not do it, I must not do it. And the answer is willpower will break. Because it's just the opposite of trying to keep on going when it's impossible. Whatever your understanding of a miracle, from a belief in God to atheist or agnostic, being sober one day at a time and then continuing one day at a time with the help of other people is quite miraculous. The intervention is learning the truth, learning about love and wisdom to keep sober. For many people this has a divine connection. For many people the connection to truth, love and wisdom is dictated by their own personal beliefs and opinions. I have learned that truth, love and wisdom are powers far greater than me and reside in the collective truth, love and wisdom, on tap wherever we can find it. And for me, the fellowship of AA has far greater truth, love and wisdom than me. Being sober means I can keep on learning how to live life in the moment of now and cope with reality. And if I cannot cope with reality, which can be quite often, I can ask for help from appropriate sources depending on my conundrums today. Answers are never immediate in my experience. The answers come as they will, and not by my will, just about every blinking day. So there's a bit of a time lag sometimes. And when we ask for help, sometimes there aren't the people in the room or wherever we're asking for help to give it. So we keep on asking for help, not because we're bleating and bleeding hearts, it's because we need some help. And one of the things we learn in recovery is it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay not to receive any help immediately. Sometimes it does come, and the immediate relief is sharing the problem, but not expecting an immediate answer. I guess that's what prayer and meditation is as well, because eventually somebody will say, well, you're barking up the wrong tree, or this tree's got some bark on it, or bite. What was it like for me on my first day of real recovery? It started the day I was born, and survived long enough to realise that my life had got completely out of control. Indeed, I did not like reality much. I felt like I'd failed to get the point. It always seems just a bit out of reach, no matter what I tried to do. And that is part of trying to be perfect, trying to say I can do that when I've got no clue. So if you keep on saying I can do it, and this is one of the things I used to say, I can stop drinking, but in reality I couldn't maintain dryness without going mad, and my head trying to control everything, control my movement to and fro from the off licence usually, or the bar. And also I needed to get out what I thought I ought to have. Somehow I had a sense of entitlement which just grew and got distorted. So I believed all the adverts and marketing on the television, and I believed I ought to be living in a posh house with a Rolls Royce and a butler. And I nearly got there, but then I broke down on the way. And I'm smiling because it was within my grasp, and had I towed the line and been dishonest, closed down and let integrity go, I guess I could have had it. But that's true of everybody. So something in me realised that those things weren't achievable without dishonesty on my part. I'm not talking about anybody else's. Somehow I raised my expectations to fantastic levels and perfection which are completely unachievable. And in the grip of trying to be perfect, or simply sometimes staying under the radar because of fear, I was always conflicted about what I should be doing and ought to be doing. Forever searching for the right situation with the right girl, the right job and the right things just made life intolerable and impossible. These days I realise the right people, the right places and the right things are with us always. And what we need is to understand the truth, the love and the wisdom on offer as reality is today. Which means it will be good, bad and ugly as life is. And freedom of choice. And we have freedom of choice. What we have is to follow our senses, intuition, and if we are uncertain, consult, relate and ask for help at any given moment. We will fall flat sometimes, forwards or backwards, flat on our faces or flat on our arse, and then pick ourselves up, and sometimes with a helping hand we make it through the day, and possibly return to serenity in the moment of now, sooner rather than later, with a little bit of help. And serenity and how it is, peacefulness, happiness, joy, can happen in turmoil, because we can say to ourselves, I'll put that on the back burner with all the other days this month, because it will be out there now. Anything is possible as long as we don't close our minds to it. But we need to know what the first step is to a new future, to a new change, to a new attitude, a new way of behaving. So we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We need to realise that every experience has been worthwhile up until now, even if it's been hurtful, unjust and not warranted, because nobody deserves to be an addict or an alcoholic. And it being an emotional and physical malady, which there isn't a pill for, there's no quick fix. We have to learn life all over again without alcohol or whatever the substance or behaviour is. And that takes time. And without reinforcement, what do? We go back to our old ways, the well-trodden path of destruction very often. So that's me for today. I've cut it short by a long chalk. I wanted to talk about step 6 and 7, but I might make a separate video tomorrow, Sunday. Good idea. Sunday, step 6 and 7, because it's about vices and virtues, the old life and the new life, and where we actually end up, somewhere in the middle. So what works for me today? Step 1 works for me. I'm powerless over alcohol, and if I were to take a drink, life will become unmanageable. I prefer not to control or feel or exert power over people, places or things. I just want to be able to make better choices, not imposing my will, but it's the will of what is, willing to join in. And I can't make it so. I can't make it my way, because in a perfect world I'd drink myself silly, get a bit of oblivion, wake up without a hangover and start all over again. Well, actually I could start all over again, enjoy reality, even the good, bad and ugly bits, because overall we get a sense of the next step, where to go next, and we stop doing the same old things over and over again and expect it to change. We change. We have to change as people. The Serenity Prayer helps me at any time, and it goes like this: to God or good conscience or a power greater than you, and I say truth, love and wisdom of the many is always a greater power than me. So please listen to a lot of people in recovery. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference in the moment, in the minute, in the hour, just for today.